Evening, boys. Daddy here, just home from work. Thought I'd read you a few chapters before I go make me dinner. Alright, are you tucked up in bed? You all cosy? Big cuddle for both of you. Love you very much. Right, into chapter 7. Finn turned onto a street that featured a row of apparently derelict houses on one side, windows brick double boarded, some painted with childish images of flower boxes, in an attempt to brighten them up a bit. A couple of trees were sprouting from the pavement, which softened it a little, but a long, blank wall on the other side of the street gave everything an inescapably austere look. In a town with street names that spoke of Dartmouth's violent past, Finn's house was the last in a row, a very ordinary and unremarkable house of a street with no name. As he approached, Finn could see a police car parked just behind his father's. The front door to the house was open, and he could make out the figure of the local sergeant just inside. Finn scurried to the low wall that hemmed in the small patch of garden outside his house. Out of sight, he crouched and listened. "You know, we appreciate what you do, Hugo," Sergeant Doyle was saying. "And we do know that you've got to teach the boy." The sergeant was a large man who used to be barrel-chested, but the barrel had slumped into his belly with age. "But this is the third time in only a few weeks." Then there was a pause. Finn peered over the wall and into the open doorway and saw Sergeant Doyle flip open a notepad and begin reading. "2 walls pulverised in Fillet Lane, a car half destroyed by your boy at Charmless Gap." "OK, Sergeant," said Finn's dad, raising his hands. "We'll be shorty. 2 people treated for shock. Oh, we can cover whatever costs. The real cost is to you, Hugo. The people here are already scared stiff of the monsters. They don't need to fear the people who are supposed to be protecting them." Sergeant Doyle never looked pleased to be in Dartmouth. This day was no different. "I have to train him, Sergeant," began Finn's dad. "We know you need to teach the boy, but there must be a better way than giving him a weapon and letting him loose," said Sergeant Doyle, stepping away from the door. Pressed against the wall, Finn felt the heat rise in his face. The sergeant walked right past Finn without noticing, got into his car and rolled down the window. "Hugo, you and I both know the people here wonder why Dartmouth is the last place left where these attacks still happen. They're beginning to blame you. Some of them are even asking if you keep letting the monsters in deliberately to keep your job." "Oh, come on now, Sergeant," said Finn's dad. "There are people in Dartmouth who wonder if they might be better off dealing with this themselves. It's the 21st century, Hugo. They think they can buy monster-killing kits on the internet." Finn's dad sighed. "They're called legends." "What?" "See you, Sergeant." Sergeant Doyle drove off. Finn's dad watched him go. "Close the door on your way in, Finn," he remarked as he re-entered the house. Finn groaned. He should have known it was pretty much impossible for him to snoop on his dad. Even his childhood game of hide-and-seek had been ruined by his father's inability to even pretend he didn't know where his son was. As Finn started towards the front door, he saw something out the corner of his eye, a blur further back along the street, moving quickly from one doorway to another. It was smaller than him, but tall enough, and he caught a glimpse of what might be fur. Red, flaming fur. Either that or... Finn hesitated, opened his mouth to call his dad, then decided against it. He held his palm out, but felt no rain. Turned his head towards home, but heard no alarm. He looked at his house, then back towards the figure. Quick and deft, it disappeared round the corner. This was one chase Finn needed to do himself, and he followed it. Chapter 8. As he turned the corner, Finn got a better glimpse of the figure he was pursuing. He felt a shot of relief as it confirmed what he had hoped from the moment he saw it. He was confident now that he would not need any help, any armour, or any weapon. nor would he need any of the courage his father kept insisting he would need to find one day. It wasn't a legend, but a person. And if a person was going to be sneaking around, a mass of blazing red hair wasn't much use for blending in. I should know that, hey? Arriving at the next street, he saw her straight away. She hadn't even attempted to hide, but instead appeared to be waiting for him, leaning against a wall, her eyes only half visible behind her hair. Finn had felt those eyes trained on the back of his head throughout the store day, but whenever he had glanced back at her, she hadn't been looking at him. "What do you want?" he asked, realising he didn't know the new girl's name. "You're Finn, aren't you?" "Yeah," said Finn crossly. "And who are you?" And she didn't answer. "Why are you following me?" said Finn. "I mean, have you seen my street? We don't exactly get many visitors." "That's not what I heard," she said. "Then you should know that you're better off staying away." He took a deep breath so that he could stand a bit taller. "I deal with a lot of things far worse than you every day of the week, and it usually doesn't work out very well for them." "That's not what I heard," said the girl. Finn immediately deflated. "You seem to have heard everything then," he said, betrayed by a squeak of hurt in his voice. "Now leave me alone." He turned and started marching away. "Emmy!" she shouted after him. "My name's Emmy." "Sorry, I didn't mean to be rude. First day nerves, I guess." "Yeah, well," Finn paused, but he still didn't know what to say. "I mean, my dad moved here because of his job, and I never thought I'd end up in a small town because, I grew up in the city, and I've never had to be the new girl. Not that I had many friends back home anyway, but I had a few, and now they're there and I'm here. And this town is kind of weird because, I wasn't even allowed to bring Silver with us because he'd get hurt just climbing the wall because, Silver's my cat, by the way, because all the glass on them. I mean, what is the story with this place, with its high walls, all the glass shards on the top of them, the narrow mazy lanes? Do people actually live like this? Because it seems like, I don't know, kind of depressing. I mean, another few weeks and I'll probably just go completely mad." Emmy stopped suddenly, aware of how much she had blurred at him. Having been blurted at, Finn was a little stunned. "Oh yes," she said. "It's to stop those, things, isn't it? I heard all about it in school." She stepped forward, her hair parting a little to reveal green eyes that were wide with enthusiasm. "Tell me, do you see many of them? Did you see one this morning? Are they dangerous? And what are they like? And have you ever killed one?" Self-awareness reasserted itself, and she stepped back, tucked her head down so that her face again retreated behind her hair. "Sorry, I shouldn't be so nosy," she said. "It's just, it's sort of kind of cool." A flush burst across Finn's cheeks. Emmy looked around, seemingly a little uncomfortable. "I've blabbered on too much, haven't I? I better go." "Oh," said Finn, still a bit dazed by all of this. I'll see you tomorrow," she said brightly. "Oh, whatever. At school, I suppose." "I'll see you before that, on the way there," said Finn. Emmy opened the door of the house they were standing in front of and disappeared inside. Finn remained where he was, somewhat bemused by the encounter. He looked at the house for a few seconds. It was a standard, mid-terraced, nothing special sort of house. His house was similar, of course, from the outside at least, so he knew how deceptive-looking houses could be. But Emmy's was on an ordinary street, lined with busy houses and cars and a sense of life. It wasn't the ruin that his street appeared to be. He envied that. Finn turned to make his way home. As he did, he noticed the twitch of a curtain in the downstairs window, but whoever was there was gone as quickly as they came. End of chapter 8. Alright boys, love you very much. Night night, gorgeouses.